Welcome back to the Testing 1, 2, 3 podcast. As always, I'm Brett, joined by Lester. Lester, how are we today?
We're doing good.
Yeah. Lester, today we're talking about an issue I don't think I've ever heard talked about in church.
You may not have heard it talked about very often, but you hear it often in church. I'll put it that way. We're talking about gossip.
Yeah. Gossip, slander, defamation, depending on what you want to call it.
All of that.
Obviously, slander and defamation have more legal sense to them than like a legality. But we're talking about something we all do. Something that's so easy, too.
Yeah.
Let's just be honest. That's probably the first point we should make is gossip's easy because it, one, can sometimes stimulate conversation.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
Because everyone likes to know a little juicy goss. You know?
Just the way you phrase it. And there's like a whole TV show, Gossip Girl, that's like based upon gossip.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't going to take it there, but
Sure.
I've never actually seen the show. That's why I...
Yes, I too have never seen this show.
So we know that's the first lie. So no, it's just an interesting topic because the reason I said I don't think I've ever heard it in church is not because I don't think that like people in church recognize it's wrong or recognize that like we shouldn't be doing it. I just think it's one of those issues that's like so hard to talk about because it's so common and it feels like just one of those little things where it's like, yeah, no, I'm not supposed to do it, but like whatever.
Yeah, for sure. To your point, the Bible even in Proverbs gets at this idea that it says in Proverbs 18:8, the words of a gossip are like choice morsels. They go down to the inmost parts. Like when you tell somebody some gossip, that gossip like really affects who I am on the inside almost because it makes me a party to the gossip, and that's something that's kind of dangerous about gossip, and it's so easy to spread it around, and it's a choice morsel, which is an interesting way of phrasing it. But if you think about like a really delicious piece of food, the writer of Proverbs kind of compares it to that.
Yeah, and it's something I think. I don't know. I don't want to say. I hate when people say, "Oh, it's just getting worse." People are getting worse. You know what I mean? It's like, okay. I mean, a lot of things are getting better. But I think with social media has been like unleashed onto this world. Not that people didn't gossip before, and maybe that was it was, but it's just like it just has become a very common and normal way to start a conversation.
For sure.
And normal thing to do online. And normal thing for a lot of people that I don't even think we realize sometimes when we're doing it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it definitely goes faster. Like it spreads faster.
Yeah. And I mean, and sometimes that's just the goal of people is just to make something spread, right? So if I can just get something to spread, then it doesn't matter what that is or who's hurt by that. I just want something to spread, right?
I would say that gossip is kind of big business, if you will, like celebrity gossip, tabloids.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest.
Anyway, moving on.
Moving on. We'll get out of the ramble. We'll get into more of the heart of this. This is also not to say that we don't gossip, because I think everybody in the church, if they're being honest, struggles with this.
Yes.
And I don't think we can be so prideful to be like, well, you know, I don't talk behind people's back. Yeah, you probably have this week. I'm gonna just go take a wild guess. You did this week. So hopefully we can enlighten just some of the ways we can avoid it and some of the reasons why it's actually more harmful to us as a community than we think. So.
For sure. As we do most of the time with many of our topics, I think it's important to start with definitions of what gossip is. So the Bible doesn't explicitly define gossip anywhere, but it talks quite a bit about gossip, and we can kind of infer a definition from the Bible's teaching on gossip. John Piper writes, "The sin of gossip is bearing bad news behind someone's back out of a bad heart." And we'll break that down. So what does it mean to bear bad news? What is the bad news? Oftentimes, when we gossip, that bad news is just false information. It's information that you haven't verified, or you heard it from a friend of a friend of a friend. You don't know that it's true. You're repeating it, and you might not have checked all the sources or know that this is a factually true story, yet you're still telling somebody else.
Yeah. I mean, it could be factually true on the other side, though.
It could be. It may not be. You have no idea. And I think that that's a bit of a problem when you're telling a third party about something that you don't know to be true.
I want to tweak it, though. I think and I know you agree with this, it's not just something you don't know to be true. I think it's more common something you know to be true as well. Like, I don't want us to be like, gossip is only if you don't know it's true.
Yeah.
I think it's more prevalent we know it's true, and it's something that we're telling a third party that they have no reason to be involved in. Like, I just like to think of like, there's party A,
Yeah.
and you're party B, and then you go to party C, or party 1, you're party 2, and you go to party 3.
Yeah.
And you're sharing information that was totally only meant for you two.
Yeah.
Or you may not even meant for it, and they may have confided in you and just said like, hey, this isn't really affect you, but I want to tell you something that's going on in my life. And then you take it somewhere else. You go, well, you hear what's going on in John's life?
Yeah.
Like, this is crazy. You hear this? And you might know it's 100% true. It's still gossip.
Yeah.
Because no one else should have been privy to that information.
Yeah, that's a great point. I don't know if you've heard the saying, but I've heard the saying quite often that goes, if it's true, it's not gossip. And that's actually 100% wrong. That's just factually false. Just because, as you were making this point, just because something is factually true doesn't mean that you need to share it with a third party, especially if it's something that was revealed to you in confidence, or something that just doesn't need to be brought up.
Yeah, I mean, I think most people understand that. I mean, I would say if you have a problem with your friends sharing stuff you've shared in confidence, well, then just stop being confident with them. Find new friends, because they're just clearly, they don't care about you enough to keep your information confident. But we'll go back to what you originally said. I think, I just want to go on the tangent because I don't want us to be coming off that like gossip's only, like you said, only if it's not true is it gossip, because I didn't want that to be a first representation, and I know that's not what you meant. But I want to go back to what you said, something that we might know that might be true or not true, but we share it anyway. That's probably what's more prevalent.
Yeah.
Right?
For sure.
Because normally, I mean, at least for myself, when something's shared in confidence, if I share it with someone in confidence, I only do it with people I trust to keep that confidence, right? And you only build that over time. But the other side is sometimes, you hear that, Steve-O was cheating on his wife, maybe. You don't know if it's true, and you don't even really know Steve that well, but you thought the group might love you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it's so tempting to tell that kind of story because when you start to tell that kind of a story, you suddenly become the center of attention. Everybody is entertained by your story. I often think of Michael Scott in The Office when he starts.
That's the worst episode. Great example.
When he starts making up these salacious stories about his coworkers, and everybody is super interested in what he has to say, and he's so enthralled by being the center of attention. But maybe it's not that extreme for you. But
well, I hope it's not that extreme. For all who've seen that episode, it was not that extreme.
But part of that is definitely true. Like, you suddenly become like the bearer of information and all the source of information, and everybody has to come to you for the information. And
you become valued.
Yeah, exactly.
You instantly become highly valued.
Yeah.
Even if it's for such a short moment. Even if the gossip is something so ridiculous that it's going to fade quickly, or so minor, it's like, okay, whatever. In that short moment, you become highly valued.
Yeah.
And you can lie to yourself, but let's be honest, everyone likes to feel highly valued.
Yeah.
Right? That's not a bad feeling.
Yeah.
But if that's the way you get to it, then that might be a bad way to get to it, right?
Like, oh, Brett knows something we don't know. Like, oh, pay attention to Brett.
Like, oh my God, like, guys, you wouldn't believe what I don't know. And you can always tell when someone like really likes it when they do this. And everyone's done this. And so please don't judge me. Man, like, I heard the craziest thing. I can't tell you because it's like that crazy, but dude guy, it's crazy.
Oh, dude guy.
That is all that person is doing is just trying to stretch out the attention that they receive from it. Because if they bring it up, like you're just like, yeah, no, and then the other day, we went to Moxie's, had a good night. Yeah. Dude, I heard the crazy, like unprompted, like you just bring it in conversation, like you're gonna bring it up because then everyone's gonna say this. Okay, you can't just bring it up and not say it. They're gonna be like, okay, fine, right? You're gonna want to say it. So,
are we gossiping about dude guy right now?
I think we're. Yeah. What? No. Dude,
no. He's a hypothetical dude guy.
No, so. Dude. You've never heard someone say that?
Yes, I have.
When you're talking to somebody, dude guy, like if you're talking to somebody, okay, whatever. But I think that's the more like common is we just want that morsel of attention. Not that the attention's bad, but how we got it was a little rough.
I would say that no, it's bad because it's at the expense of a third party.
No, sorry. The point I'm making is not that wanting attention.
Oh no, is
bad, But yes, getting attention that way is bad. Sorry, I reframe my statement.
Yeah.
Not that wanting it, because I think everybody in life wants attention.
Yeah.
I think you're a pretty weird cat if you're walking around like, I don't want anyone to notice me ever. I want to go in the shadows. Like I think you're a pretty weird guy. If that's good. Okay, we're getting way too off topic, because I'm going to bring us back.
Moving on.
One of the big things that definition was, it's bad news, and we kind of want to just define bad news in two ways. So why don't you start with the first?
Yeah, so bad news is essentially what we just talked about. It's bad information, so either it's lies or it's news that, yes, is true, but you just didn't need to share it with a third party. It wasn't yours to share, or it was not relevant.
It was unnecessary.
Unnecessary, yeah. And then, I mean, if you want to throw this in there as well, sometimes we make bad assumptions of people as well. You might think that something is true, and you might presume it's true, but if you don't know that it's true, this can also fall into that category of bad news as well.
Yeah, I mean, a bad assumption it can sometimes be based on a lot of that could be true.
They could be astute observations, but you don't.
Like, hey, by what I've been seeing, but I think everyone knows what a bad assumption is. Like, I mean,
it's like again, these are hypothetical names, but don't be offended. But if say Ben and Jenny are getting together, and I think that their personality types are not going to mesh, and I'm like, oh, they're going to break up in like 3 months. I bet you he's already cheating on her.
Oh gosh, I hate that voice.
But like,
what kind of voice was that? Okay, sorry, I pulled this out.
But those are that's just an example.
You're creating this hypothetical situation that you're like, oh, like imagine what could happen. It's like, wait, aren't they happy being together? Like, why?
Yeah, where this is coming out of left field? This is just irrelevant.
Yeah, but I mean, again, we've touched on why we go there, which sometimes is just to start a conversation. Sometimes it's to be the center of the conversation. Right.
So I think we should move on here to the next part. So gossip is bearing bad news behind someone's back. And that's one of the key components to gossip that differentiates it from something like slander or defamation. Gossip occurs behind somebody's back, where they don't have the chance to defend themselves, nor do they know that you've shared this information with a third party.
Yeah, and the key to the point we're making here is you're undermining someone's character without them basically you're holding court without them having a chance to like respond to anything. You're just sending information about there, and they can't they can't be like, that never happened. There's no way this is true. Like, what are you talking about? I've never even been there. Or this isn't true. You're just sharing it, and then what you're doing is you're demeaning the image that someone else has of a person. So like, I might hold Lester in high regard, but then Anthony comes to me and says, man, like, did you hear that Lester did this? And now, even if it's true, my image of Lester is now dropping because I've now found out information that maybe I wasn't supposed to know, whether it's true or not. And so in that situation, Anthony would be like purposely demeaning your image. And normally it's to a group or to like, to me, I mean, like, what one, Anthony wouldn't do that, but two, like, that's not going to do anything. Normally that is like directed towards like a group of people you want to not like a person, or you're trying to like get the upper hand on. But you're really, you're defining someone's character without them showing what it really is, right? And that's where it gets dangerous, because you're saying, well, they did this, and now I have this assumption of Lester the next time I see him. And I'll be honest, most of us can't get that out of our head, even if it's something little. Right? It's just like, oh, he's this kind of guy. Like, I bet he... And then when he does something, when I see his actions, I'm now seeing them through the light of this information I was given, whether true or not, mostly not true. And I'm like, oh, he would do that. He would. He would do that. Like, and it's like, whoa, what you think of him is all through this lens of this gossip that wasn't even true. And now you're judging and reacting to that person in a bad way because you were told something, one, that you were not supposed to know, or two, is not even true. But now you're treating someone based on gossip that you were given. That's
it's totally coloring the perception of your. And I will add this. Oftentimes that information, even if true, is given out of context. Like, oh, he did this, but there's no explanation as to why he did this, or the circumstances around what he was doing, or all of those kinds of things.
Like, oh, you hear Lester pushed his wife? Oh, what a brutal person. And then the real story comes out saving her from a car. You know, like it can be that. I mean, that's obviously ridiculous, but that's where it can be, right?
Interesting cut, but yeah.
No. I was trying to think of something so
of
so
course,
white and black. That's just like crazy different, right?
Yeah. It's a great story, a great example.
So the next point, I don't know if I 100% agree with you on, but we're going to say it's ill intention.
Yes. Like our definition said, behind somebody's back out of a bad heart. And I think that while it's not always true that you feel like you had a bad heart, I think at minimum it was selfish of you to share that information because, say, maybe you wanted to be the center of attention at the moment, or you felt like you wanted other people to share in your revelry, if you will, for the moment, like, ooh, we know something that other people don't know, or whatever. Or sometimes it's just purely like, no, I want this person to look bad in front of everybody else. Whatever it is, oftentimes that ill intention is really what makes gossip bad.
Yeah, but here's my question. Can you gossip, but it can be good things?
I would say that for example, if I'm telling Anthony like, oh, Brett like crushed it at his job this year, or like he's really preaching the gospel well, or like his prayer life is incredible right now. That's not gossip. Those aren't gossip. That's not gossip. That is just me praising Brett. Yes, it's behind his back, but it's not gossip. Gossip is normally, or pretty much always, bad news.
So you can't gossip good things? I don't know the answer to this.
I don't think so.
I'm just saying, like, hey, like, can I be like, oh my goodness, you hear that guy? Like, he's putting up like 320 on the back rack squat. Like, that guy's insane.
Are you serious? Dude guy, that's crazy.
Dude guy. Because I think maybe then you're culling their perception in a good way, so it's not.
It's not
Is that
gossip.
What we're saying?
Yeah, it's because it's not slander. It's not gossip.
Like, I'm not coloring their, like, if I say something good, if I go, hey Anthony, did you hear like Lester has like a really nice lawn? Like, man, that guy takes care of it.
That's lie.
But then now I'm coloring his perception in a good way. I'm not like doing it. So now,
it's not gossip. It's not slander.
Okay.
I would say. I think that would just be praise. Now we have to be careful with our praise. We can't just lie.
Like, you have a good lawn. You don't.
I don't. This is. We'll get there another time, but I do not. No, there are weeds on my lawn. But yeah, I think that a strong component of gossip is a bad heart. And Romans 1 actually attests to this. It says in verse 28, they're gossips, slanderers, God haters, insolent, arrogant, and boastful. They invent ways of doing evil. They disobey their parents. It goes on and on and on. But interestingly, Paul puts gossip on the same level as like God-hating, arrogant, boastful, greed, depravity, wickedness. All of those things fall into the same category as gossip. And so sometimes I think that we don't take gossip as seriously as we ought to. And sometimes we don't examine our hearts when we share the information we aren't supposed to be sharing.
Yeah, I have no disagreement there. Let's move on. How do we avoid it?
Yeah, I think that there are 3 R's. I did not write this. This comes from the Gospel.
Well, I just say this. It's awkward to sometimes be the guy who goes, hey, we don't need to know this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you sometimes think in your head, like, okay, I don't want to like be the guy who's like, hey, I don't need to hear this.
Yeah.
Because you're like, I just want to have, like, these are my friends. I just want to have a good time. I want to be the guy shutting down conversation. So.
Yeah, and then like once you like shut it down, you're like it's awkward.
Yeah, it's like, oh my goodness.
You got to be that guy. Yeah. Like, no, but I think it's actually really important. The first R is to refuse it. And this goes for when receiving or when thinking about whether or not to share a piece of information. So when somebody, you can feel it coming, like Brett was saying earlier with his dude guy reference, you can feel that kind of a story coming. And sometimes it's possible to say, like, do I really need to know? If I don't really need to know, I'd rather not know. It's okay.
Yeah, I think that the best advice I've ever been given on this is just ask one simple question. The question I try to ask, not that I'm perfect. So sometimes I like some hot guys.
You're not perfect.
But hey man, is this about me or concern my life? If not, is it about something I should know to help one of my friends?
Yeah.
If not, man, like, don't worry, I don't need to know.
Yeah.
Which is tough because sometimes you get really sexy and you're like, oh, but I just want to know.
Yeah.
It's like, I just really want to know because everyone loves having information and everyone loves being in the know.
Yeah.
Right?
And actually, you can take that same set of questions and flip it around on yourself.
Yeah.
And to determine whether or not you need to be sharing this piece of information with a third party.
Yeah.
So that goes to refuse. Second is to rebuke it. Again, this can be awkward, but I think that it's important to call out sins with people who you are so close with.
Lester, let's go through it. I come up to you and I go, hey, man, I just got to tell you something. It's so juicy. It's so juicy. Did you hear that Anthony, tore off his dad's whole roof? And that's not even a good example. That's such a bad example. You heard Anthony that, Anthony was, dating this one girl and she's, crazy. Oh, my goodness. You should see it. What would you say to me?
Yeah, Brett, I really did not need to know that information. And also, Brett, we should not be speaking behind Anthony's back. I think that Anthony wouldn't appreciate that.
What am I, talking to a computer? Come on.
Do you want me to put a little more...
put a little human in the answer, you know?
No, to be honest,
hey, man,
think that...
I don't need to know.
Yeah.
I don't need to know it.
And also, I really don't think Anthony would appreciate us talking behind his back like this. I actually have said that before to people.
Yeah, I mean, you're a stronger man than me, to be honest. That's another step to be like, hey, man, the truth is, if someone's gossiping to you, then they know they might gossip about you, which everyone's heard since they were grade 2. But I just try to go, hey, man, I don't need to know.
Yeah.
I don't need to know, or I don't care to know. You know what I mean? Also, I'm using Anthony and Lester's name is because we're filming this podcast. So
in front of Anthony, by the way.
In front of Anthony. So everything we're saying is 100% not true, and we're just using it as names just to create characters. So please do not think we are gossiping about Anthony in front of his face on a podcast.
Yeah, we're not gossiping. We're slandering him.
This is defamation. This isn't gossip. No,
But I would actually go as far as to rebuke it, especially with somebody who you are an accountability partner with or you're close with.
Yeah, I would say it comes how close you are.
But yeah,
that's what I'd say. So if someone I don't really know, we're friends, but I don't hang out. There's I would go with hey, man, I don't need to know.
Yeah.
I don't care to know. And sometimes the easiest thing is I don't need to know, and then just walk away from the situation. Yeah. Don't stay in the situation. Just be okay, that's fine, cool, man. I don't need to know whatever you're gonna say. Or if it's a group of people, just leave the group.
Yeah.
If you don't want to shut the whole group down, it's not always your job to be the hero of society, right? And
the white knight.
You're not Don Quixote. You don't need to, you're not on a mission to civilize, right? You like that reference?
Yeah.
But sometimes you're just you know what? I'm just gonna remove myself from the situation. I'm gonna go, go to the bathroom, grab a drink, whatever. You know what I mean? But you are right. If it's a close friend, I do think sometimes you should be hey man, I don't think we should be talking about I don't think we should be talking about Anthony behind his back like this.
Yeah.
I don't think he'd appreciate it. But I would say that to a closer friend because it's they know I'm not saying that yo man, you're such a bad person for saying this. They're just hey, let's you're just kind of a reminder hey man, we don't need to do this.
Yeah. And the third strategy, if you're ready to move on.
Isn't it an R? Start with an R?
It starts with an R. Redirect it. And I think this is actually the most important thing, is to redirect people back to Christ and the gospel. And to say, you know what? Say Brett is giving me bad news about Anthony. Well, I can turn that around and say, but I also know Anthony to be a wonderful this, A, B, C, and he did this, and this was great, and I'm not sure, maybe your story is out of context, or you're not hearing the whole truth. Are you sure that's true?
So you're saying color the situation with hey man, I get what you're saying, but I know that guy to be like this, so maybe that story's not true. Maybe it is, but we're just don't have all the details.
Yeah,
that. Exactly. You're saying try to remind the person or the people in that situation hey, there's a person that you're talking about here.
And secondly is to redirect people back to the character of Christ, to say, you know what, I don't think also this is very Christ-like of us. And this again is very hard to do. I understand.
I only chuckle because it's so this is like I think we struggle doing this like more than like a lot of things in like as being Christians walking together. To actually say to another Christian, I think is some like it can be very fearful to be like, hey man, I don't think God like this is a Christ-like thing we should be doing.
Yeah, exactly.
Because that comes across as very preachy and people
very haughty.
Yeah, a different word to use there, but
HAUGH.
yeah, I know you were going with that, but it's just like I think we really struggle with that because then it's like, oh, okay, buddy, like preacher man, and then because they're gossip, they're gonna go gossip about what you just did. Yeah. Like, yo, I was trying to tell this guy this news, and then he's like, hey man, and you know what? That's just that's the price of trying to stay away from it. And the truth is, when you become someone who doesn't engage in gossip, you'll get closer to people because they'll know that when they talk to you, that there are things happen in their life, they're not worried about you sharing them with everything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That
you build what it is you're building credit.
Building credit and confidence.
Yeah.
And finally, I think it's important to tell the person who is delivering this gossip that maybe if they have a problem with that, whoever they're gossiping about, maybe you should approach that person. If you're send them back to the person that they're gossiping about.
Well, that's the last thing I want to say. Is sometimes we were like, is it gossip? Is this person just trying to share something that's going on in this life? And I think you should just really color the context with obviously introduce like, hey man, like, should I know this?
Yeah.
Is this something I should know? If like, actually, I really think you do need to know. And then you have to be wise enough to stand and go, I don't think I should be involved in this. And maybe you have to go back to the person and say, hey man, like, I know you think I should be in there, but you like, because like when there's a disagreement against two people, a lot of times those people go to other people, try to build sides. Yeah. You'll see this in families a lot.
I hate that.
I mean, it happens in families a lot. Like if you grew up with any siblings or parents, sometimes like you'll fight with one of your parent and you'll try to go to the other parent to get them on your side. She's like, now me, and now it's two against one, right? But the truth is, when you have a problem with somebody, you shouldn't go to anyone before you resolve it with that person. But I think we do this a lot. We'll have a problem with somebody, and then we'll go and like, I have a problem with Anthony. I go to you, and I'm like, and then I kind of get you on my side, so I feel like I have backup. When really, in that situation, you're like, Brett, I shouldn't be involved in this, and you shouldn't have come to me with this. You need to solve your problem with Anthony because like you're being petty or like that's really hurtful. I don't know how you're dealing with that, but I can't help you. Yeah. But sometimes we want to be the shoulder to like, we're like, oh dude, I just want to help. I just want to help. No. And we're actually not really helping the situation. No. We're just putting ourselves into a situation we should never be a part of.
You're just participating in gossip.
And this happens all the time because some people just like to vent. I know people like, and I would say it's different in a marriage. A marriage is different because that, like, you've defined yourselves as one in God. So, like, if Lester has a problem and he goes and talks it over with his wife, that's different than me going and talking over with a friend. Yeah. Right? That's just a totally different scenario. But like, I think this is a very common thing. It's like, I'm frustrated with this person, so I'm going to go talk to a couple people. And it might be out of honestly, humble heart. Like, I need to figure out what to do in this situation. But you should know, like, that's not always the best way to handle it. It's never the best way to handle it because what you're doing is you're putting pegs in between those people and that person. Yeah. Because you're so biased to your own side. We're all so biased to our own side. And that's the hardest one is sometimes we're frustrated with a situation. We want to talk it over. We don't want to talk to the person. So we go to other people and then we start gossiping about those other people. Yeah. And that's when it becomes a little bit more slander, a little bit more defamation because now we're really like going after a character. I want to end it with, why is this important?
Yeah, I think this is important because I think it's one of the most prevalent things that we see actually in the church family. It's the sin that I think that we all struggle with almost on a daily basis. I would say that it's not everybody who struggles with adultery or pornography or whatever, cheating on your taxes or whatever.
Cheating on your taxes.
But I don't know what
Fraud?
it is. Fraud is what it is, yeah. But the one thing that we definitely, and I'm sure I've participated in it this past week, and Brett's probably participated in it this past week, and Anthony too, is gossip. And so I think that it's really important that we are checking ourselves before we wreck ourselves.
You try to use that in like a intelligent, like...
No, we...
You try to use that in like an intellectual, like, we must check ourselves before we wreck ourselves because it's bad for our health.
No, it's really important that we're actually really sure about what we're sharing about other people, and we're really careful with what information we tell other people, because sometimes it's just not relevant for them to know.
Yeah, and I think the other thing is, if you want to tear apart a team, and let's just be honest, the church is a big team. We're a big team across
Family.
the world. Big family. I don't have friends. I got family.
Nice.
But the easiest way to tear apart a team is from within, and that's to start to just slowly chip away at relationships within that team. I mean, you can see it on hey, maybe your work team's 5 people, and you want to talk about gossip. That's like the number one place to find is the workplace, because there's always frustration because you're trying to achieve a goal together.
Yeah.
And the easiest way to break a team down is let's get the people talking about each other.
Yes,
Because then
absolutely.
you lose trust. People feel insecure around each other. They can't be vulnerable, so they can't have great ideas. They can't be creative. And then next thing you know, you've destroyed a team, and that's what destroys churches.
Absolutely.
Right? Somebody gossips with somebody, creates a little rift. People get on each other's side. The story gets blown out. It never gets resolved. And next thing you know, you have fights going on about stupid things in a church because somebody started to gossip.
And then there's 85 denominations. I'm kidding.
You're not wrong, though. Like, some of that, I mean, now some of it's just like disagree on that part of literature, but like, that's a way to break apart a team.
Yes.
I mean, anybody who's played on a sports team knows, like, you're always going to have better friends on a team.
Yeah.
But a team that works well together is people who respect everybody in the room and have enough respect for each other that if I have a problem with how this person's operating, I go to them. I don't go to the rest of my teammates. I'm using that because that's like a lot of my examples, right?
Yeah.
But it's so true. Like, if you want to be part of a good work team, a good like team in sports, a good team at church, a good like, it's just like that is the number one thing that tears apart our church is just gossip, because people start to take sides and start to dislike people over nothing.
Nothing.
They don't know if it's true. They just start to dislike them because the character has been defamated to them. So that's why I would say it's more important, because our church gets split over these things.
For sure.
And then we see like 20 people leave because they're like, oh my goodness. And then and then maybe 2 years later the truth comes out and you're like, wait, we were all mad about that?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
So yeah, that's why I would say it's super important. And then in your own life, I mean, if you want to be someone who people really are like really want to be close with and keep accountable and like confide in, don't share their like be someone who they can confide in, be strong. And I think if more and more of us do this, we'd have more and more like there'd be more and more grace, there'd be more and more love in our community, because more and more people wouldn't be worried about like everything they do is like under scrutiny by everybody else because they know it's going to be talked about. So that's my spiel.
Cool.
Yeah, I think I mean, obviously we want to hear your comments, your concerns, your questions. Maybe you're going to email in and you're gonna be like, yo, did you hear this person did it? Let me just stop you there. We don't need to hear it. But guys, thanks for listening, and hope we tune back in next week as well. Email us at testing123@springvale.org if you have any comments, concerns, questions, or you just straight up hate us. Take it to us. Don't gossip about us behind our backs.
Slander us to our faces.
Yeah, slander us to our faces. We didn't really talk about slander and defamation. If you want to know more about those, they more have a legal sense, and it's more just purposely trying to ruin someone's character for your own gain or something like that. But it's the same thing as gossip. Other than that, guys, have a great week, and we will be back next week or the week after, depending on how things goes. But thanks for joining us, and email us at testing123@springvale.org.
Nice.